Give me 30 seconds to get my laptop ready here. It's really great to be here. As Ken says, this is really a homecoming for Pam and me, in which, hang on, I just want to make sure this cable makes sense. Okay. It's great to be back here. Two of our children were born at Stanford, and it was a great time at Menlo. Thank you, Scott, for hiring me. It was one of the best seasons of my whole life. It really was. Then I became a senior pastor, and it was really bad. And it's great. You know, I have other Menlo friends here. Christy Pierce, who she and her husband is here, and Milo Nadine, who's an elder at Menlo and Senior Vice President of Google, so if you need a job, see Milo. As Pam and I said, we're very thrilled about the 8th Hawaiian Islands Ministries Conference that's coming up in March. So if you can come, it's March 15, 16, 17. About 4,000 or 5,000 show up. There are about 100 seminars and great worship time. And besides the gift basket you get if you go to POP, Ken and Becky will pay your way to Hawaii. Yeah, okay. It was like a prophetic moment, and the Lord just spoke to me. So, can you see the TV screen where you are? This one? Is that in the way? Okay. So, great to be back here and to be back in the Bay Area. You know, we long for things that we just don't have in Hawaii. Hawaii, we have nuclear attacks, as you've heard. I'm still like shaking a bit. 38 minutes of knowing there were incoming missiles. And praise God for the civil defense we have. And then oops on that. But you know, we long for things that are like kind of oasis for us in Honolulu. Like In-N-Out Burger. We don't have In-N-Out Burger in Hawaii, so it's really great to be here and increase our cholesterol. This is my family that I love, some of them in Hawaii. My son Quinn is the youngest, and he's going to be a missionary in London next year with a church called Soul Survivor, or this year, no, next. And Dylan and Noel were born at Stanford, and he works for Bank of America Merrill Lynch in their research analysis for stocks and stuff. And Noel works for Google. Works with Milo, in a sense. With the other 15,000 or whatever. Okay, so let me quickly go through this because I know we're on we have some time concerns. A scripture here, Jesus saying, I tell you the truth, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. A good verse for you entrepreneurs here this morning. And then, for it is as if a man going on a journey summoned his servants and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. And then he went away, and the one who had received 5 talents went off at once and traded with them and made 5 more talents. In the same way, the one who had 2 talents made 2 more talents. But the one who received the 1 talent went off and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. And I think many of you are very talented with the skills that you have that God has given you. And the question is, are you going to use your 5 talents to do a lot more for the kingdom, or are you going to bury your talents? So this is about moving mountains. And this is a message I've shared with hundreds of for-profit CEOs and hundreds of nonprofits, and shared it in China as well as in Singapore. And Paul Harvey, I don't know if you know who that, the radio guy from Chicago, the light person from Chicago, he was so intrigued with the story, he did a radio thing on it. And when CNN heard about it, they put it on their front page of CNN.com. And we've been in appropriately Golf Digest and Stars and Stripes. And so it's a story about how our church in Honolulu was given an opportunity to buy a golf club and move our church into the golf club. And this is, in that sense, it's kind of immersed in some entrepreneurial spirit, which Ken asked me to share this morning. You can move it. Fantastic, as long as I can see my screen. Okay. Yeah, you can do that too. Fantastic. Okay, so it all started with a need. And the need was this. We needed a bigger place to do church. Scott and I were just reminiscing about the good old days of church growth. I was senior pastor in '94, and attendance was as small as 175. Average attendance was around 300, and suddenly it started taking off. In 2 years later, 39% growth in worship attendance. 2 years later, again, 29, 19%, 26%, 33%. It was going crazy, and we were getting packed. In addition to that, we were having so many events, Bible studies, small groups, and women's, men's events. So in 2002, we had 247 events per month. And then in 3, we had 287 events. In 2004, 402 events. But the bummer was that we only had 83 parking spaces. And at that point, we were probably about 800 people coming into the sanctuary and all that. And not including Sunday school, which was another 100 or 200 kids. And so attendance was growing, facilities were limited, and so here's a big need. What are we going to do with this parking shortage? And sometimes, as the saying goes, a healthy plant needs to be repotted to continue to flourish. And so it's not just about bigger is better. We just had to think about what are we going to do. So it's very key that you have to figure out amidst many needs, what are you really called to do? And is this something, we just had to face. So one day, I preached a sermon in March 2001 called Mountain View and Mystery Men. Mountain View is the Great Commission that Jesus is talking to his disciples, go out and make disciples of all the world, right? And then I was comparing it, I know this is crazy, with a Ben Stiller movie called Mystery Men, about these people who thought they were superheroes, and they thought they had powers with it like a shovel or with a bowling ball, and they weren't really superheroes. But then Casanova Frankenstein attacks the Earth. I know this is a weird movie, and I preach weird. So then they realized they had to save the world, and they actually were superheroes. So it was a way of saying, we all have been given spiritual gifts. What are you going to do with it? And we have some mighty challenges. And it was called also a pastor's vision. Well, unbeknownst to me, a man named Robert Schuller, he was a former pastor of the Crystal Cathedral in Southern Cal. He was in the worship. He had decided, he said, he never goes to church on vacation. I don't know about you, Scott. Because you just start analyzing everything. Oh, retirement, go ahead. But I would say when I'm on vacation, sorry, this sounds like heresy, I don't go to worship because
it's work.
It's work. Right. So he's there with his wife, Arvella, and he decided he was looking at the newspaper to see what worship services were, before websites, looking at the newspaper to see what were, and he saw, oh, pastor's vision, that's kind of interesting. I've been to Vision, so he said, I'm going to drop by. So he came to our church, and he drove around literally 3 times. He couldn't find parking space. So he convinced the ushers that he would park in the loading zone in front, and he said, right at the benediction, I promise, we'll run out, I'll jump in my car, and we'll move it. And the usher said, fine. They didn't recognize who he was, not that we give preferential treatment to rich people. I mean, not famous people. Well, he might.
Because we do to rich people.
Yeah, we do to rich people, but not to them. So anyway, they didn't know who he and his wife were in. They gave them 2 metal folding chairs. And literally, their seats their backs were at the front door. We were packed. And so after the worship, he got my cell phone somehow and called and said, hey, Dan, how would you like to have breakfast with me and my wife tomorrow? And Pam and I thought, oh, that'd be fun, breakfast with Robert Schuller, that's just cool. And so we had breakfast with him, and during the breakfast he said this to me, Dan, I have a word for you and your elders. And I thought, oh, this is going to be like a blessing, I have a word for you, yeah, bring it on. And he said, tell them that you have given up the lordship of Jesus Christ. And I said, say what? Say it again. And he said, tell them that you have given up the lordship of Jesus Christ. And I said, okay, sure, but why am I telling them that? And he said, because your Lord is not Jesus. Your Lord has a different name. It's called parking. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? He says, I bet when you have your meetings of planning, you plan it for 83 parking spaces. You don't say, Lord, what do you want us to do to receive all the people you want us to receive? He said, never let the shoe tell the foot how large it should grow. Your Lord is parking. You're limiting God. And I thought, wow, that's kind of heavy. And and then he referred to my sermon, which was about this paradigm would be, is that the church is a ship coming to save the survivors of the Titanic. And many died that night. But there was a ship called the Carpathia who went into the waters, heard the alarms, the distress signals, and came and saved about 794 people, pulling them out of the water. So Dr. Schuler used that against me. He says, do you really want to save people? Are you really open to that? Do you believe what you're preaching? Will you go out and save people and be inconvenienced because they changed from a Mediterranean holiday cruise into a mercy ship? The dining rooms became hospitals. They had to share their blankets, share their food. They had to cancel their vacation plans because the ship and the passengers decided we got to save these people. So I came back to our church and I said to the staff, I just had the craziest breakfast with Dr. Schuler, because he says, in the end, he said in the breakfast, you guys need to move. And I said, isn't that crazy? He's telling us that we have to move. And my staff, who is far more brilliant than I am, they said, he's right, Dan. I said, no, that is so much work. And they said, no, he's right. We need to move. And so we decided that, okay, we're going to move and we're going to find a new place. And, when you make these visionary statements and you start talking to your inner circles and leaders, there's a lot of grousing, a lot of complaining. Like, you can't move. I mean, we're not into change, Dan. And some of them are like, no, let's just go back to the old days of slavery. And like the Egyptians. And no, we're going to stay in our thing. So, so I said, come on, gang, let's just be open to this. So, of course, one of the things they groused about is we'll never be able to find a suitable site. And I want to say this, all of these complaints or questions are valid. If you look at things in terms of what is the probability of that happening. So I don't overly criticize these people who come up with these complaints, and you're going to hear a lot of them. And there's a lot of seeds of truth. I have to say, so you know the context, this is not an easy slam dunk story. It's a story of a lot of tears and heartache. I lost probably 17 good friends over this because the vision's parted. And part of it was I started in 1980 as an assistant pastor, and then 94 I became senior pastor. And a lot of, I think part of the struggle was not just a real estate question, and you may face this too, it's a kind of a socio-psychological thing happening, in that many of these people who were elders knew me as a young assistant, kind of like Pastor Danny, and now I'm senior pastor. If you know Shakespeare is kind of like in King Henry V, when he's Prince Henry, he has a friend named Falstaff, and they gotta go hunting and all that. But when Prince Henry becomes King Henry, it's a different ballgame, and his relationship with Falstaff changes. And my relationship with some of the elders was changing. I wasn't doing everything the way they wanted me to do it. But I'm very grateful for them, and they introduced me to Pam back then on a blind date, so I owe the big time. So, never find a suitable site. In Hawaii, here's the deal. An acre of land in Honolulu is about $6 million. Just bare, land. And so you can see, and we figured if we're going to find a new place and build a new sanctuary and offices and maybe a gym, a fellowship hall, we want 6 acres, that minimally 6 acres to look around. And so 6 acres means it's 36 million, and you haven't built anything. I forgot to mention, we only had $200,000 in our capital. So now you're wondering, why did Ken invite this guy to speak? He's totally crazy. Okay, so fair enough. One of the concerns was it will cost too much. And like 36 million. And I said, okay, let's like refine the vision. So you refine the vision, and it gets even more like a nightmare. It's building will be 25, 35 million. The land will be, we figure, 35 to 45 million. So they said, great, Dan, you need to raise 60 to 80 million. And they said, how much do you have again? 200,000. Okay, real good. So it gets even crazier. So we, and a lot of credit goes to my executive director, Ron Matthew. I also need to say that this would not have happened without him. You know, everybody, the crazy, you know, Mark Zuckerberg needs a Sheryl Sandberg at Facebook, somebody who like knows what she's doing. So Ron Matthew, I want to just give credit to Ron Matthew. He really helped me. Former retired Navy captain who gave up being an admiral to work with me. So you know he's crazy. So, so the reality is, we thought, thinking, you know, we're going to need to sell our property to get some money. And but then we started thinking, if we sell our property, that means we have to find another property and buy it, probably like within 48 hours. Because if you sell the property and you don't find a new place, you have nowhere to go. Or if you buy a new place and you have no money, that doesn't work too. So we thought, oh my goodness, it's going to have to happen like in the same week. But we went ahead and decided to put our church on the market. So I kind of explained that. These are the weird things. If we didn't take the necessary steps should a buyer appear, we wouldn't be in a position to sell. So we listed it even though we didn't have a place to go. So here's one of the first miracles. It was a slow news day. The local Fox News heard that this crazy church is selling their property and they have no place to go. So they decide, we want to do a story of these idiots. And they called us and said, we'd like to do a story of this. And I'm thinking, you know, former TV newscaster, I'm going, wow, it's like, what a gift. We get free advertising during the 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock news. They're doing a 3-minute piece on us, and they're paying for the production of the commercial. Put it on, man. And it just happened, I was out of country or out of town. You want to see the short? Sure. So here it comes. 6 p.m. News, June 21, 2005. All right, here it comes. Uh-oh, where's the volume? Yeah, here it goes. Coming up.
Wesley Wilcox reports the offer of almost 2 acres in dense Makiki is attracting a lot of interest. Leslie?
That's right, Joe. The congregation is looking to move in order to expand. The sale is meant to put money on the table for a new, larger property. First Presbyterian Church of Honolulu has 83 parking spaces and 1,400 people showing up on Sundays at 5 services. Like a plant in a pot that's too small, it needs room to grow.
What we're looking for is a place that can accommodate all the people that are coming to us.
There's Rob Matt.
Turn people away.
The 1.9-acre property the church has outgrown includes fellowship halls, other meeting rooms, offices, classrooms, a commercial-sized kitchen, single-family house, even a 3-story apartment building. A parade of prospective buyers has included representatives of other churches, schools, various nonprofits, and businesses.
He doesn't know how to play organ, and he did that.
$12 million works for the church's real estate broker. The sanctuary could also be converted to a gymnasium, a dining hall, or classroom or office space. Total price being asked for the church campus, $17.3 million. First Presbyterian needs money for the new property it's seeking, 5 times the size, up to 20 minutes away.
We realize that we can't really sit down at the table and even talk about some property that becomes available unless we know we have a buyer lined up for our property as well.
And buying a church property isn't like looking for a house. Rarely is there one ready to go. St. Mark's Coptic Orthodox Church feels blessed. It bought this 11th church from a larger congregation, Grace Bible. Even when buyers have faith, Finding property is usually tough in this heated real estate market. We'll see who finds the Magiki Church for sale. First Presbyterian says it's unlikely the property will become another high-rise because of restrictive zoning. And Joe, I happen to know that you worked a long time ago with this church's senior pastor.
How did you know that?
I saw a picture of you in his
We don't
office
need to hear
today.
this.
From KGMB when you were the sports anchor.
Okay, you don't want to hear it. So, you heard we put it on the market for 17 million. So there's a huge backstory which I don't have time to explain. I know there are a lot of bankers here, so I'll be kind. But there were some people in our church who were very accomplished business people, and they said, Dan, maximum you're going to get 4 million for your property. And we're in a residential area, you can't build more than 25 feet, you can't knock it down and have a huge condominium. And they said maximum 4 million, and we appraised it for 17. So I was like, that's kind of weird. The other thing that was happening is that there were members saying, Dan, we gave our money to the kingdom of God. You are not going to sell it to a condominium place. You are not going to sell it to a 7-Eleven store. It has to be, the buyer has to be committed to the cause of Jesus Christ. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding. I mean, it's hard enough. I mean, the slice of pie is getting smaller. Now buyers have to be committed to Jesus Christ and use the property for the kingdom. It's like, oh man, what are the odds? So, the Fox News story went out, and a miracle broke through. Catholic Charities was watching the news that night. They had 5 different offices, and they're looking for a place to put it all together in one state compound. And they said, we are interested in your thing. And so they came up to us, and they offered us $15.5 million. But more importantly, they said, we're willing to wait. We know you're looking, and when you find a place, we'll pull the trigger. So suddenly another miracle. Now we got the 48 hours I was worried about. And if you go to the website of Catholic Charities, they minister to the homeless, the abused, the economically underprivileged, in the name of Jesus Christ. It says that on their website, and they're Catholic, so they're committed to Jesus. So, okay, so, wow, that's like 3 miracles right there. So now the big challenge, now we gotta find a property. We looked at 500 properties and actually walked on 30 properties. And it was hard, and we couldn't find anything because the cost was astronomical. I remember 36 million just for land. Then, one of our long-range planning team members, an elder, who is not charismatic, not geared towards prophetic dreams, had a dream. He saw me preaching at a place called Olau Golf Club, and I was in a robe preaching. And of course, I said, what the heck is that? And I said, wait, I once did a wedding there, I once was there, a golf club? So we went in and looked at this golf club. Initial assessment, there was 8 parcels, 1,388 acres. It was zoned conservation, means you cannot build anything outside the footprint. So that's not great news. And it was built in 1991 for $120 million, foreclosed in 1997 for $12.6 million, and owned by, I won't say the name, but a California real estate company. The clubhouse had 110,000 square feet. That's like almost 3 acres under roof. And it had extensive offices already there. It had multiple meeting rooms. There was parking for 370. And when we looked at some of the meeting strips and stuff, we figured we could put 400 to 500 adding things. They had large banquet facilities, and when I saw this, I said, I could see a smaller room here for funerals or fellowship meetings and all that. Had a commercial kitchen, had a banqueting operation going on, had a restaurant, a sports bar. The only church with a sports bar. So there was only one problem. It wasn't for sale. So we were talking to them, I said, come on, man, you know, and they said, no, man, we're like making money. We're not going to sell it to you. So this golf club was actually about 25 minutes from our present site. And when we were looking, we had said that we would look in the urban corridor and we will find something within 30 minutes of where our church is down here in Honolulu, and 30 minutes drive. What the church members didn't know is I drive really fast. So I could be anywhere in 30 minutes. I could be here in 30 minutes. So they're saying, I don't know, man, going to a golf club, I don't know. And again, this is kind of private because we didn't want other people to know about our idea, and it wasn't for sale. Anyway, and so you had to figure out who you're going to try to please because the complaints and the opposition got higher and higher. One of the questions was, well, the golf club doesn't look like a church. But you see, when you ask that question, then it gets very serious. Then you have to ask biblically, what does a church look like? Is this the biblical model for a church that Jesus and the apostles wanted, kind of the New England? Or is this a Greek Orthodox? That's the biblical model of a church, since people are saying that's not what a church is supposed to look like. Or is it in Jerusalem, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre? That's what a biblical architecture is of a church. Or is it in Yorkshire Cathedral? That's a biblical view of a church. Or is it First Assembly of God in Honolulu that bought a supermarket and it's remodeling it? Maybe that's a real church. Or maybe, bless his heart, Dr. Robert Schuller, maybe it's like a Crystal Cathedral that holds 3,000. Maybe that's a biblical church. Or is it what our present sanctuary looked like? This. Maybe that's the biblical church. So we came to the realization, it's like, look, Jesus preached on the Sermon on the Mount, he was in a boat, talking to people on a slope. You can't say what a biblical architecture should be. So we should be open to just a venue that could hold a church. And this golf club had a huge ballroom that could hold 900 people. So then you come to, so is that the promised land? And then of course, as you know in the Bible, the question is it the land of milk and honey, or are there giants in the land? You can't go there because all these giants are going to go after you. And so the big miracle was the owners finally decided to sell. After 2 years of talking to them, they said, we'll sell it to you, but we want $20 million. Wow. And of course, we had $200,000 in our savings, but we knew of this possibility with Catholic Charities, but the deal wasn't sealed with them. We just had that as a possibility. And of course, one of the complaints was, Dan, we don't have any money in the bank. And so even if we got the 15 million from the Catholics, we're still short because you'd have to buy this at 20 and then remodeling for 1 or 2 million, and legal fees was a lot, almost like $1 million. And so we embarked on a capital campaign. Now imagine this, we could not go public because of non-disclosure agreements of where we were thinking of buying. So the congregation didn't know. Right? And because we didn't want another church or school to say, oh, that's for sale, we're going to come in. So everything was under the radar. But I had to start a capital campaign, the worst kind of capital campaign in the history of America, because normally when you do a capital campaign, you show architectural renderings. What a beautiful campus. See this, see the trees, see the buses, see the smiling people. Here's a brochure, where we want to go. So I had to say, here was my line. Will you give money to a place we don't know and for people you have not met? Painful. And I'm just thinking, I don't know if this is going to work. I mean, I'm a trustee at Fuller Seminary, and some of the development team is here from Fuller. This is like the worst nightmare, is it not, Fuller, to have this kind of fundraising? But then a miracle broke through. We actually raised $8 million on this crazy campaign, and Catholic Charities were ready to sign on the dotted line for $15.5 million. So then came another complaint. Dan, that's too much land. So 1,388 acres. We would own the mountains. That's part of the tax code. We would own the mountains. The Koala Mountains. If you look up above, this is the footprint, and so we were excited, and so we came to sign with these real estate guys from California, and the night before they said, you know what, we're changing our mind. We don't want to sell you 1388. We're rather only want to sell you 242. And I was really angry. I said, come on, man. I mean, like, we had a handshake, we had all these meetings, we said. Now, what we didn't know is they had plans, they had an offer to do a zip line up here that would make them millions, but it would land on our property. And we said no. They're not going to land on our property on a Sunday morning zip lining. Tourist buses. So, you know, I was really upset, but Ron Matthew comes up to me and said, Dan, settle down, settle down. Think of this, Dan. You only wanted 6 acres. So you got a bellyache about 242, and it was actually 246 in the end. And I said, you know, you're right. We only wanted 6. And if we get this, it comes turnkey. We don't build anything. It becomes turnkey with a clubhouse that's 3 acres on the roof and offices and big rooms and a sports bar. So, like, okay, we'll go for that. So we went ahead. Now, the Department of Land and Natural Resources, DLNR, said we're halting this. We're not going to approve of this purchase. And I thought, what the heck? And they said, you're a church. This is zoned for a golf club. We're not going to let a church buy a golf club. And I said, that's like not fair. So can we appeal? And they said, sure, you can appeal. But I'm telling you now, we're telling you no now, and we're going to tell you no later. So if you want to appeal, go ahead. But you're going to hear no again. So what do you want to do? And I said, I want to appeal. So we appealed. And 2 weeks prior to when we were going to meet with the DLNR, another miracle broke through. The Supreme Court of the United States of America was meeting on a law that these judges may know called RLUIPA, the Religious Land Utilization Institutionalized Persons Act. Only in America would put prisoners and religious stuff together. Maybe they know something. And basically the law says that, in layman's language, that you cannot bar a purchaser of land simply because they're religious. And in this court case, which was on some appeal, they upheld that law again. And so that was 2 weeks before our meeting with the DLNR. So like we walked into the DLNR, hey, did you see the Supreme Court in the United States of America? And they said, okay, you're in. So upheld by the Supreme Court. Alrighty, so then came another barrier. They'll never get approved by the Catholic diocese. So the way it works with the Catholics, as you may know, is that Catholic Charities is under the bishop, under the diocese. And they have their own financial group, and the financial committee of the diocese has to approve Catholic Charities of buying our property for $15.5 million. And the finance committee unanimously said no. They said, we are not going to give you $15.5 million to give to the Presbyterians for this property. And not because we're Presbyterian, but just they didn't think it was a good deal. Now, you know, in the Catholic denomination, individuals have a lot of power. Like the Pope has a lot of power, the Archbishop, and the Bishop. And so we figured if we could only get to the Bishop, maybe things would get reversed. But the problem is they had a brand new bishop at that time, who's now a friend, Bishop Larry Silva, and he was just getting ordained and installed. And so we were having a meeting because we kept trying to get on his calendar, and his assistant said, no, you're not even going to meet with him. And so this was a problem. So we were having our meeting with the Catholic Charities people, and the Catholic Charities attorney, who was on our side, said, look, I had to catch a flight to United Airlines to Chicago, direct flight. When I come back, we have got to get to the bishop. We've got to get to him because that will make or break the deal. We said, okay. So he took off. He got in his flight on United Airlines. The bishop said, I'm in. All right, so the Catholics are in now. Another hurdle. Entrepreneurs, you know what this is like, man. Hurdle after hurdle after hurdle. Now the city has to approve the permit. And we were concerned because the neighborhood commission would have to give a green thumbs up. And the neighborhood, we knew if Catholic Charities, is that my phone? No. If Catholic Charities, President Trump calling me again? I told him I'm busy. We knew that the neighborhood commission would be a little jittery because Catholic Charities is in a residential area. So now homeless people are going to be coming up continually, maybe sleeping there. And so we were jittery, and we went to the neighborhood commission ready for this onslaught, and nobody showed up to oppose it. And so the commission said, okay, you're in. So another miracle. So the math is starting to look better, right? For such a time, what's the name of our capital campaign? $8 million. Catholic Charities is giving 14.5. We have to buy this place for $20 million, and we have a little money left over for remodeling and lawyer fees and all that. And now the real estate guys in California who are selling it to us say, okay, we're into it, but give us $500,000, non-refundable, because if you change your mind, we keep it. And we are going to give you only 30 days for due diligence to figure out, do you want to buy this or not? So what would you do? This is entrepreneurs, this is like really tough, right? You have 30 days to go hard at 500,000. You could lose this. And I'm thinking of like little Mildred Martin, Social Security, 75 years old. Am I going to lose her money? I mean, it's like pushing all your chips into the center of the table, playing poker. And you haven't seen all of their financials, and you don't have financing approved because we're going to need a bridge loan, right? Even though I have pledges of $8 million, it takes about 3 or 4 years to get the $8 million, so I got to get a bank loan from you bankers who think golf courses don't work. And the congregation doesn't even know about what we're doing. It's because due to a non-disclosure clause. So here's what we did. I don't know what you guys would do, but here's what we did. Surrounded the issue with prayer, we notified the congregation immediately. We're going public on this because we're putting $500,000 down so nobody else can take it. So we're going public. We called a congregational meeting. We brought in professional due diligence team. We arranged guided tours for more than 200 people, buses going up to the golf course and everything. And we formalized a business case in 9 days for the banks for a loan. So, reality check, as I said, we need an $8 million bridge loan. And of course the voices were telling me, ain't no way, it will never be approved by a bank. Remember, I'm starting to lose friends left and right. And my friend, you know, I was hearing things like, Dan, you're not a, well, they were saying like, you're an egomaniac, you're not interested in building the kingdom, you're just trying to build things for yourself, you're trying to be like some megachurch pastor, you're a liar. And then my enemies had other things to say. Those were my friends. And the liar thing was coming with being spread around because we lost this deal. I mean, I'm giving the short, conflated view, but we lost this deal 17 times. And so once a friend came to me and said, are we going to a golf club? And I said, no way. I mean, it's dead. And so when it changed, she was one of the first persons I called, and I said, you know, it's changed, we are going. And she said, you're a liar, you lied to me. I said, no, I didn't. I told you 100% truth when you talked to me. But then it went out, Dan's a liar, not to be trusted. It was just a horrible time. The congregational meeting was not great. I was yelled at and everything. And I have a great church. It was the only time this ever happened, ever. So, fair about the complaints. Insufficient budget base. Bank will never give us a loan for golf course operation. We're not going to be able to make a credible business case. And the business case was tough. We're going to have to continue current operations of the golf course, of banqueting, as we open to the public. We have to operate a golf course, which we've never done before. And the goal is no cash drain. And the course has had a history of financial loss. I think that's why they want to sell it. American Golf, which was the ones who were running it, wanted out because they were losing so much money. So we had to think outside the box. We had to think outside the box, which you pastors, entrepreneurs, everybody have to do. And so we decided, okay, we're going to operate a banquet business. We're going to be break even. We're going to set up a separate for-profit corporation. We do want it to be a conference center. And you talk about being missional, going into the town square. We're going to buy the town square because this is where they have their proms, they have their fundraisers, their seminars, their weddings, their funerals. We want this olau place. And they have weddings there. This is just outside my office. My office door is right here. And there's an atrium here that has a waterfall if we hit a button when you're pronounced husband and wife. Inside the ballroom is where the sanctuary is. We can convert it into fundraising places and weddings. And here's what the ballroom looks like now. There was a permanent wall here we had to knock down for hundreds of thousands of dollars, put in theatrical lights and a sound system. Lee Greenwood sang there 2 years ago and said, our sound system was as good as Nashville, so that made me feel good. And seminars, and then famous people started coming to play golf. The staff laughs about this picture. They said, the most powerful man in the world, standing next to Barack Obama. I think it was right when we were doing staff salary analysis when they said that to me. So they wanted some raise. He was part of my family and the golf and the banqueting manager. That was the second time he came back. He would play a lot more, but sometimes it rained, and so he couldn't. And then the miracle happened. A bank loan was approved for $8 million. And Bank of Hawaii said, we quote them, it's the best business plan we've ever seen by a nonprofit. Wow. But we had to declare there's no way we could commit to a $20.5 million deal with only 30 days to perform due diligence. So we said to the people in California, we need more time. Part of it is they weren't giving us all the books, all the finances. And they said to us, then the deal is off, and that's our final answer. And that's because we didn't know they were hoping for this zip line. So it was a little unfair. They were looking at stuff, even though we paid them $500,000, that everybody was not going to do that stuff, right? So they said, you need too much time, your church. We're not going to release the critical information you want. And so don't bother to spend time or money to come over here to hear us say no to your face. And they were in Southern Cal, I think. And so it really seemed hopeless. And so what were we going to do? And so I said, could we fly up and just talk to you one more time? And they said, don't do that. And then they said the line that I heard before, we're telling you no now, we're going to tell you no later, so don't come up. And so we thought about it, and Ron and I decided we're going to fly up, and we're going to talk to them. And so we flew up, and you're flying up and you think, what am I going to say, what am I going to say, what am I going to say? And what am I going to say to convince these guys who are just interested in money? So I came up with this. Hang in there with me. I came up with the story of when the prophet Nathan accuses King David of adultery. That should work. Yeah, that should work. So how did the story go? Do you remember? Nathan comes to King David and says, hey, I got a story for you. Here's a story. There once was a man. He only had one little sheep. He loved that sheep. It was like part of the family. And then another man who had many, many sheep decided to take that one sheep from that one man for himself. And I thought, that's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm going to say to these guys. But I'm not going to talk about Nathan or adultery or King David. So I went to them and I said, hey, how many projects are you guys working on right now? And they said 12. And so I said, to make the story really short, I just said, my church only has one. Our one project is to buy this golf course in olau. And it means everything to me. It's the future for our church. It's where our weddings and our funerals will happen, where people will be helped. And I know you guys aren't churchgoers, but it really does help people. It could build up the fabric of society. And you have 11 other projects. And you know you're going to make $8 million on ours for profit. And you can make more than $8 million than the others. But this means everything to us. And all I'm asking is, you're going to get your $8 million from us, but let us buy this, and you can do your other 11. And they said, well, thanks for coming. And we took off, and we flew home. And later when we got home, they said, okay, we changed our mind. We're back on. And so that was great. And so the miracle broke through. They reversed their decision, and we made it, but at what cost? And as I told you, not only was it financially expensive, but I lost a lot of friends. All of the friends have, well, I say all except maybe 2 of the 12 or the 17. Let me change that, just to be accurate. All of except maybe 3 have come back and apologized and said, sorry, Dan. And you were probably right. That was the Lord's view. And so that's nice. And 3 of them came back to the church, but the others did not. So finally came August 27, 2006 was our first time we could walk onto the property and say it's ours. And what I did is I asked anybody who wanted to show up. We were going to walk around the campus. We'd blow a shofar. We would read from the Word at different places. And 300 showed up. And I have to say it was one of the most emotional days of my ministry, because I almost felt like a Moses. I looked back, and I just see 300 people walking up this long walkway. And Ron Matthew, the executive director, he was holding what we had, the pulpit Bible, big pulpit Bible. He was holding that, saying, symbolic, the Word is coming in. And we went, this is the picture of that day, we went into the sanctuary and had our first worship. We sang songs, and later we put 3 crosses on the driving range. And I really wanted the driving range, and on Easter we used to have a thing called extravaganza, where we wouldn't pick up the 10,000 golf balls, and the kids, I would shoot a starting gun, and then the kids would start running down, and for every golf ball they picked up, we'd give them a plastic egg with chocolate inside. You know how long it takes for kids to pick up 10,000? It was something like 38 seconds. It was like crazy. And so they would go down there and pick up these, and we had to stop it because we get so big in the community. Thousands of kids would come, and we didn't have enough parking. So, and we'd have inflatable things. We had barbecues outside. One of the first things we did was we put a huge mural in there of Compassion International, that we're changing it from a rich, affluent private golf club to a public private course, and that we care about children and poverty and releasing children in Jesus' name. We have we call this Compassion Hall. We have 1,000 pictures of children our church members have sponsored at $38 a month. So to end, I tell you the truth. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. We didn't move the church. God moved the mountains. So one last thing is a seminarian wanted to do a paper on us as a case study, and I said, sure. And he came up with this great line. He goes, wait, Dan. So you decided that if you stayed at your old place, you would just become a club. No more room, members only, you can't come in. So he said, you actually moved the church to a club to become the church, because if you stayed at the church, you would have been a club. And I said, oh yeah, that's what we thought all this time. So I have a video of our first inaugural party. Would you like to, it's starting, sorry. Here we go. It's really short. This is Hawaii. We always have hula.
Father, it is with gratitude to the Creator who began all things that we begin a new thing here today.
Welcome to the official opening of First Presbyterian Church of Honolulu in Olau. After 5 years of a lot of prayer and planning, here we are.
The sanctuary was packed and volunteers were in full force yesterday as hundreds of friends and family gathered for the inaugural service at the new location, Olau Golf Club.
2 hours went by and felt like 30 seconds.
Okay, here's Lance. Thank you so much for having me. You pose for a picture.
They worked on that little school.